graph. So if you just were watching the previous video, we talked about the general form of cosine. Just need to have the a and the b value. Only two things that you need. So we'll down here, we'll start talking about what is the a value, what is the b value, and then also we got to talk about, is it reflected? So those are some things that we got to look. So if it's reflected, then we're dealing with that negative a value. So first the a, I'm looking at where's the highest and lowest point. So it goes down to -3 up to +3. So that tells me my a is 3. And then it is going to be reflected, so I am going to use -3 because it's starting down at the minimum. So when I start writing my equation, y equals a cosine b theta -3 is going to be my a value. So that tells me that I have an amplitude of 3. It's going high and highest of 3, lowest -3. And then the negative tells me that it's reflected. It's starting down at the minimum. The other thing we need is the b value. A couple ways you could find the b value. You could take and count how many cycles does it take me to get to 2 pi. Well, there's one. Do another one, and I get exactly to 2 pi. So 1 cycle, 2 cycles gets me exactly to 2 pi. So that's one way that we could do it. Another way you could do it is you could figure out, well, what is the period? And the period is just 1 cycle. So I've already found one way that the b is going to be 2 in this one. 2 cycles between 0 and 2 pi. But you could take 1 cycle, which is pi, and you could take 2 pi over the period. So 2 pi over pi. Either way, pi's cancel, we get 2. So either way, this is going to tell us that the number of cycles between 0 and 2 pi is 2. It takes 2 cycles to get to that 2 pi threshold. I'm not worried about this last cycle. So that last cycle would go out to 3 pi. I'm just cutting it off right here, looking at what is the b value. How many cycles does it take to get there? Now we'll head into our second equation. So second equation, we're going to find our a value by reading the y-axis, and then we'll find our b value by taking 2 pi over the period. But our a value, first of all, looks like 2 squares gets me to -2 is all I'm seeing. So each square is 1. So this one goes from -2 to 2. That means I'm dealing with a 2. And this one does not have a reflection. So don't need to worry about making my a value negative, no reflection. Now I got to find my b value. So b value is going to be 2 pi over period. And I can't do that trick I did on the last one because I don't know where 2 pi is. So this one has a theta axis of integers 4 and 8. I can't tell exactly where 2 pi is, so I'm not going to try to mess with that. So to find the b value, I'm going to take 2 pi divided by the period. And the period is the length of 1 cycle. So I got to look at it. Starts up here at 2. It's going to go down to the minimum, and it comes back. When I get back to that highest point again, there's 1 cycle. I look, that matches up to 8. So from 0 to 8, that's 8 units. That means my period is 8. And then fraction, you got 2/8. That's just like 1/4. So this is going to be pi over 4. So pi over 4 cycles between 0 and 2 pi. Writing our equation, y is going to equal 2 cosine pi over 4 theta. So I just like to use that method every time, is finding the period, and then after you find the period, you just take 2 pi divided by the period to find your b. In some cases, like that first one, you can count how many cycles between 0 and 2 pi, but it's much more efficient just to find your b value by taking 2 pi over the period.